What does it take to step into a male-dominated world, race Ferraris on the international circuit, and inspire women everywhere to believe they belong? Lisa Clark, known as Racer Mom, is my guest this week on the Today's the Day Changemakers podcast. She grew up in Arizona with her dad, spending weekends working on cars and dreaming about what might be possible. They often talked about a Ford GT, the kind of car that felt out of reach for a family with humble beginnings. Recently, Lisa created a moment neither of them will forget, pulling up to the front of his house in the Ford GT they once only dreamed about, turning years of conversation into a full circle moment of gratitude, legacy, and love. But what makes Lisa's story even more remarkable is that racing wasn't her first act. It's her second. She stepped onto the track later in life, proving that it's never too late to chase a dream or redefine what's possible. Her journey hasn't been without setbacks. After a devastating crash on the racetrack, her daughter looked at her and said, "Mom, you're done." But Lisa wasn't done. She rose again, carrying forward the two words now tattooed on her wrist: keep going. Lisa has been featured on Netflix's Fastest Car, in Forbes, and many other outlets that showcase her story of courage, connection, and impact. Beyond the track, she inspires a new generation of women, proving that they belong in every space, and that courage and conviction can carry us further than we ever dreamed. Don't forget to subscribe to the Today's the Day Changemakers YouTube channel, stream all episodes on all popular platforms, and like and share on our social media. Today is the day, live it on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you to those from 131 countries who have downloaded our episodes and listened to these incredible change-making stories. Have a great week, everyone. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Today's the Day Changemakers Podcast. I'm your host, Jodi Grinwald, and as I say in every single episode, I interview the changemakers, the inspirers, and those who are disrupting the status quo in the best way possible. And I'm so excited to have Lisa Clark with me today. Hi, Lisa. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. Thank you. Happy to be a part here.
Oh, I am thrilled. I'm thrilled to know you. So let's give a shout out to Tanya Newbold, who introduced us. Tanya's amazing. Can't wait to have her on the podcast as well. That's coming soon, if not by the time this comes out. And so connections are incredible, and our whole lives are pretty much built off of that. So we get to meet incredible people. For those who don't know Lisa, I just want to share that Lisa is racing with Ferrari as a full-time amateur on the international circuit. She inspires women to follow their passions in life and learning to be comfortable with stepping outside their comfort zones. So, Lisa, there's so much I want to talk about when it comes to, I think you are the only race car driver I've ever met, so I'm so excited to learn more. But female race car driver is exceptional. Before we get into that, I really want to learn more about you, and I want the listeners, who I want to thank. We are now like over 1,078 cities around the globe. 110 countries have downloaded this podcast. I want to thank my listeners every chance I get, so thank you for that. Tell us, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona. That was, grew up there, went to high school and also college, graduated from ASU. So longtime resident there in my younger years.
So when you were younger, race car driver, was that on the list?
It wasn't, but I grew up with just a dad in desert motorsport stuff that he kind of did for a hobby. And so growing up as a little girl, that was our weekend fun, is dirt bikes and all types of motorized vehicles in the desert. And so for me, the racing idea didn't really even enter my mind, because as a female anyway, and a little girl, that just wasn't a part of how it worked. So it was later in life that I managed to be able to jump in and start the journey.
So what did you go to school for?
I graduated in psychology and with a nutrition minor. But the whole plan for me in college was sports psychology, just because I was an athlete growing up, a gymnast all through school. And to me, that was just something that seemed like a good segue to stay involved in sports and athletics. Because growing up as a little girl, that's just kind of what I did with my dad. I was always involved in all kinds of sporting activities. He was a very athletic man. And Yeah, so that was my degree. I would have loved to have done the sports medicine, sports psychology journey, but at ASU, when I started the program, it was new, the sports medicine there at the time. And so after about a year and a half, they just said, we can't keep funding this. So I went and saw my counselor and I said, well, what else can I do? And so basically she says, well, you could do psychology and become a sports psychologist. I thought, oh, okay, maybe that's a journey for myself. But life changes, and never entered the world of sports psychology. Never used the degree in the sense of having an office and all of that. I think the everyday life is really a big part of psychology, with meeting people and just your journey and figuring things out and just the theories of the brain and all of that. So yeah, that was how I.
What did you wind up doing?
Wow. Completely something I'd never think I would do was I got into real estate. That was just basically because later, when I met my husband at the time, I was 24 in college, putting myself through college because I grew up in a very blue collar lifestyle. My dad was a plumber. So for me, meeting when I was able to graduate college, at the time when I got married, he was in real estate. So I got my real estate license and just kind of sectored into that world. And then we had started a company back in the 80s. And anyway, we'd built that up, sold it, and raised a family, and didn't really start the racing journey till my daughters were, two girls, were old enough to kind of give me an outlet for myself that I could really focus on.
So how did, I'm listening, it sounds like obviously you had this passion from when you were a child, but how did it go from that? Then you went to real estate. What put the bug in your ear again to go into racing?
Yeah, like I said, I always kind of had a passion for motor stuff, motorized vehicles, just because of my dad. We would work on cars and stuff like that. And really, I think for me, the segue was the first vehicle that I was able to call my own was a Jeep. And my dad at the time he had said, there's a couple down the street that are going through a divorce, and the Jeep doesn't run, but if you can come up with half of it, I'll pay the other half. And it was $3,000. And I worked two jobs, was going to school. I was a young girl, but I worked a lot. And so I raised $1,500, and he gave me the other 15, and we towed the Jeep to the house one summer and rebuilt the engine together. And that's kind of where I learned about motors and how everything works, because I pretty much watched him take it apart. I was younger and in high school. And then that summer he kind of mentored me in learning how to rebuild an engine. And we did, and got it running. And that was just kind of like a draw for me. And then it wasn't until college, I had a dirt bike that I would keep at my apartment, and I had my Jeep. And at the time, the rule was, well, Lisa, you can't take the dirt bike to college. I go, okay, I'll just keep it there, and then when we go somewhere on trips. Well, anyway, I ended up getting it street legal and kind of hid it from my dad, the idea, because some days to go to school back and forth, it was easier to park. So long story short on that, I had a bad accident, and not my fault. A woman didn't see me and basically took me out big time when I was in college. But the good part out of that story is, once I was healed, I received a small settlement from the insurance company. And that was kind of my segue into sports cars. So once I paid off all my bills, was back up on my feet, I had enough money to go buy my first sports car. And I always wanted a Porsche. And anyway, I found one in the Auto Trader magazine, and bought it. And at that point, I joined the Porsche Club in Arizona and just decided to kind of get to know people in there. And we would do these parking lot timed trials, they're called, where you'd set up cones and you'd try to get the fastest time going through these cones. And that to me was just so fun. I spent a lot of times four-wheeling in the desert I had a lot of guy friends because they were into cars and motorcycles, and we'd go dirt bike riding. So I was always kind of around that stuff. And then later in life, this is a long, boring story, I feel, but I got married, had my daughters. We had enough money financially where my husband said, Lisa, I think now we have enough where you can go order your first Ferrari, like a brand new one, but it has to be the least expensive one. And I had a few sports cars in between there, but they were used. So anyway, I ended up going down to the dealership. We moved to California at that time and ordered my first. It was a California. It's kind of the base model at that time of Ferrari, new Ferraris. And I joined, anyway, when I got the car, Ferrari had this program where the salesperson I became good friends with goes, Lisa, Ferrari goes to these tracks where you can buy 2 days of track time with a coach and be in a sports car on a racetrack. And I'd never been on a racetrack. And I was like, oh my gosh, really? So I ended up doing that. It was a 2-day program. And that just kind of woke me up and like, wow, to be in a fast car on a track, that's pretty incredible. So I ended up going through all their programs because they had a whole program where once you finished, you could be in a challenge car and with a coach and play on the track. So I did that, graduated from all their programs, and then worked on getting my racing license. I started go-kart racing. From there, I did a little European series, less horsepower car, but I kept my eye on the Ferrari series, the Challenge series it's called, because to me, that was just like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine if that could ever happen. And I went and saw a couple of their races and then kept in touch with the owner of the dealership who ran a race team. And he goes, Lisa, you're doing all the right things. Just keep in touch. And then I got to the point where we met and they go, you're ready. We've been watching and yeah, it's time to jump in. So, yeah, I've been racing in that series now internationally. I've been 9 years. This will be my 9th or 10th year, I think, with Ferrari. And yeah, I won a championship, which was something I never thought I would be able to do. Check that box, beat the boys and the men. So in my class of racing, so it was really satisfying to make that goal. I don't think I ever want to go for a championship again. It was so much stress, but really happy that I was able to have that experience in the sport. And yeah, I'm still out there. Apparently, it's hard. It's a hard drug to quit, I tell people and my friends. But the thrill, yeah, it's more the challenge, at this stage in life to be an older female in a male dominated sport. And I'm told the oldest female internationally racing in motorsport, period. So I've been carrying that torch for a while, and I'm going to start to hand it off slowly here down. I'm not too far off, but really happy to be doing what I'm doing at this stage. Never thought it would happen.
Is there another goal kind of dangling out there before you kind of hang up your race car gloves there?
Well, I'm still in the midst of this season. So that, motorsports is a 10-month season. And so I've got some upcoming races. Next season, I will probably slow down a little, but I'm just not sure. I'm going to wait and see how the season ends up for myself. There's kind of 2 segues in motorsport for me to go. I'll probably slowly phase out of the sprint racing and do more endurance racing. That allows a couple more drivers. You take shifts in a longer time span of a car, 12-hour and 24-hour races. And I do about 2 of those a season right now, and the rest are sprint. So I'll probably just kind of slowly segue into that. And then, I like to stay involved in the sport, and I like the idea of helping some younger females get recognized in the sport. I'm kind of involved with one right now that's trying to get to F1. So we'll see. But that's kind of a plan that I'm looking in the future for myself, just to still stay around and involved, but help these younger girls maybe get some sponsorship, or just help them up the ladder, because it's very hard as a female in the sport.
I was going to ask you that. I mean, like you said, it's very male dominated. So how hard was it to break in, and how were you treated when you first broke in?
Well, I think as a female, probably even as a male too, but for me, I just felt like when you're doing something in a male dominated world and you don't really want to stand out so much as a female, that's how I felt. I felt like going in a way where if I could prove myself kind of in a quieter, humble way, and earn the respect from the men, that makes a difference. I noticed, there are a female couple here and there that kind of did it differently. And I think it sets a stage for a reputation. If you come in too loudly and don't really have the reputation of being a decent race car driver, and then you have that attitude, you're going to get knocked down. So I just kind of feel like as a female, probably in anything, whether it's motorsport or whatever, it's very easily to get tagged as, oh, she's a bitch because you complain. Where a man can complain and then nobody says anything, they just move on. But as a woman, it's kind of easy to get a reputation of like you complain a lot, or you're always making excuses. So you don't want to come across very noisy, very flashy, and still as a feminine woman, I think it's important to kind of just balance both sides of the equation.
It makes perfect sense. How do you stay in shape for all of these? I mean, it's got to be wearing on the body.
Yeah, I think as you get older, for sure. Every season it doesn't get easier, but I work out at the gym. I have a trainer. I try to eat well. I travel a lot, so that wears a lot on you. There's times where I'll do an IV before I travel, just to kind of boost the immune system, or right when I come back. And that seems to help a lot. Electrolytes, and you just work on a lot of nutritional things just to kind of keep the body feeling energized, and recovery is so important. Like I got back from Barcelona last night. I had a week of racing there, testing, and then 2 races. So now I'm here I leave tomorrow. So I have a couple nights to recover in New York before I have a race in upstate New York, 2 more races. So you just kind of learn how your energy level, and learn how and when and where you can take rest. Jet lag's the hardest. And hydration is everything. People don't realize, but how your body gets so depleted with stress, even managing body stress, especially in the car, because it gets warm and, your body's under a lot of stress. And you don't realize. So fluids are really important.
Are you looking for a way to connect with a global audience? Join us on October 23rd for the Today's the Day Changemakers International Forum. Register for free at todayisthedayliveit.com. That's todayisthedayliveit.com. This one-day virtual forum brings together leaders, authors, CEOs, and entrepreneurs from around the world to provide powerful insights across 6 transformational panel discussions: rising through uncertainty, the burnout breakthrough, louder than the scroll, when fundraising follows purpose, becoming who you haven't met yet, and entrepreneurship as a global connector. And also, sponsorship opportunities are available and customized to align with your organization's goals and ensure meaningful visibility. Options may include commercial spots during the forum, spotlight features on the Today's the Day Changemakers podcast, social media mentions and recognition, potential interview opportunities, and creative recognition that maximizes your marketing investment. By joining us as a sponsor, you're not just supporting an event, you're fueling a global movement of connection, collaboration, and authentic impact. Together, we'll strengthen one another, build powerful connections, and walk away with actionable steps that create immediate positive change, both personally and professionally. So don't wait. Secure your spot today at todayisthedayliveit.com. You mentioned that, yet last night, before we were on, you got kind of, I guess the last time you raced, you got kind of pushed around a little bit, and there was a little bit of a snafu there. And so those types of things, have you gotten hurt from, racing in any way?
Yeah, I had a pretty big crash the year COVID hit, right before, like 2 months before, in Daytona. So I was in the hospital for about 10 or 11 days, broke quite a bit of bones, fractured, but recovered. And it's 6 months later, I was back in the race car. So it was one of those things where when it happened, and cars today, the race cars for the most part are a lot safer than back in the earlier days. And so anyway, so for me, it wasn't a matter of when something like that happens, that type of trauma, it's easy maybe to say for some people to just go, okay, that's it, I'm done. But for me, it was the opening test day of the season in January. And I just remember when I was all crashed up and awake, it was not even a question. It was like, okay, what do we got to do here? Because I've got to be in a race car. The first race is in March. And one of my daughters, she had flown to Florida as soon as it happened, was in the hospital with me and stayed with me all that time. And she's like, Mom, you're done. I mean, this is crazy. It's over. And I was like, Lainey, no. You have to get back on the horse. It wasn't even a question of like, oh, should I stop? It was more of like, when can I get back? How long is this going to take to heal? What do we have to do here? Because I can't miss this season. So that was just probably that was the worst experience I would say I've had. There's been others, but for the most part, that one hit pretty hard.
Yeah, that's huge resiliency. And I'm thinking about what you're teaching your daughters. Like I think about, people say, so what does your mom do? And your daughters say, my mom's an international race car driver. Like that's not something most, doctor, lawyer, accountant.
Right. Different journey. It's like, wait, what?
Yeah, they're like probably thinking, is she kidding? So what do you think you're teaching, or what lessons have you seen your daughters have taken from your journey?
I think they definitely see the ups and downs. They hear about them because they don't go to all of my races, but they go to some, and they've seen them in person, and the emotional stress it puts on me and the physical. But I always try to just kind of let them know when they see my really down moments, when I've had a bad race and they're there, or when they're not there, that just like, well, that's racing. It's kind of like, that's life, the ups and the downs. It's like, you have to keep going. And so I think they're maybe seeing a lot of like, wow, Mom, like, I get these crashes and these situations, and they're just like, well, so what now, Mom? It's like, well, I have a race next month, the car will be fixed, and they're just like, okay. So I'm hoping they're just seeing through the dark times of something that I do have a passion for, that it's something that for me, it's not even a question of like, well, I'm done. It's not a way to end. I want to end when I'm ready to, and I'm just not ready to stop. And I hope they can kind of pick up on that for themselves on things too. And it's just that consistency mindset of like, find something that gives you spark inside, and whatever it is, And if you can find that, which I think it's very hard to do, no matter what stage you are in life, it will help you in so many ways because of the confidence it gives you as a person, to walk anywhere and just feel confident. It's something that it's so easy to not have and feel. And I think if you can find something that will give you that, do it.
Yeah, I think about, those who are listening, I guarantee there's not a lot of race car drivers possibly, but I can tell you there's a lot of business people, a lot of people who have been through most likely different types of things in their life. And they hear your story about that resiliency to keep getting up and not give up.
Right.
And, what message do you have for the person out there? If it's not internal for you, we can hear it. I can feel it, right? This is a passion for you, this connection you have to this. Like you said, it's a hard drug to give up, right? What about those who don't even know where to get started, or they fall down and don't know how to get back up? Do you have advice for them?
Well, the fall down and get back up, I mean, I've done my whole life. And even before motorsport, right? Whatever it takes, breakups, people that lose their job and are financially struggling. It's just kind of that inner faith, that knowing that, when one door closes, you hear that saying, another one opens, right? And things end because they're ending because there's a beginning right there. The ending is the beginning of something that's coming up. And it's very hard to just say, what I don't know what to do. And women a lot, I talk to women my age that their kids are grown or they're younger than me, and they're just looking for something to just have that independence, feeling like this is mine. And it's hard. I know when you're in a marriage and you raise a family, because I did that. And I just tell them, it's just like, just find, I don't know, what do you like to paint? Just find something and sign up for a class. And then you meet people that are kind of interested in what you're looking at doing, or take a class at school. Like, I always wanted to be a photographer. I always wanted to learn to take pictures, just something. And that just kind of puts you down a road. And it also gets you around like-minded people that are trying to do something, get better at something, whether even golf or, it doesn't have to be a sport, but there's so many creative things to do in life. And I even look at my journey going, this is taking a lot of my lifetime, my later years. What else is there when I quit this? And that's kind of scary for me, thinking, oh my gosh, what would I do if I don't have racing in my life, right? What's some other things I could do? And it's just something that you just got to find something that maybe is an interest and just try it. If you don't like it, do something else. But you just can't be afraid of taking a step in a direction, because that step will put you somewhere else if you're not wanting to be there. It just does. And that's that step outside your comfort zone. Just take a step into something. You never know who's going to come across your path, or what's the timing of walking in a room and what's going to be there and enlighten you all of a sudden to do something else. Who knows? Just got to.
I think interesting as you shared your story is that, hearing here, go get your first Ferrari, right? And now you're racing them. What was the time frame between the time you bought that first Ferrari and the time you started racing?
Well, I haven't been racing it that long. Let's see. I think I bought it with 2012.
Okay.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And then 9.
I worked about 2.5 years to get my license. 2.5, 3 years.
So if you just look at the trajectory, like how just one thing, if you never bought that Ferrari, would you be sitting here right now?
No, probably not. I would have a sports car, but I wouldn't, because there would be no pathway for me, right? And just the fact that I became good friends with the salesperson, and I liked cars. I liked I would go to garages sometimes of when I'd get my car worked on anywhere before I had a Ferrari any car. And I always like hung out with the garage guys, because when you're a woman and you show up and you say, oh, I need an oil change, right? They're going to like, oh, well, you're going to need da, da, da. Well, I always got to know those guys because I knew how it worked, but they didn't know that I knew, but so hanging out with people that of something that interested me and kind of put me down that path. If I wouldn't have gone into Ferrari and really kind of bonded with the sales guy and, oh my God, I love these cars and it was always my dream. And, he saw an interest of like, well, wow, there's this program, this schooling you can do with Ferrari, maybe you can go take a course. Right. How would I wouldn't have.
Yeah. One step changes the whole trajectory in our life.
Absolutely. I'd never would have. Yeah. And now he's one of my closest friends. Yeah. Because of that. He's been with me, that's Tanya's husband, James. He kind of opened that door for me and just exposed me to something that I never would have thought I could do.
I love it, and it's Tanya's the one who introduced us. So it's
how ironic, right?
It's a crazy world. But even with this podcast, right? I was afraid to start it years and years ago, and then COVID hit, and everybody lost perspective. And I'm like, I want to talk to those change makers out there who are just doing incredible work during a difficult time. And now, 200 interviews later, and meeting incredible people. But if I never made that choice, I wouldn't have met any of you. So, we may not think about today what we're doing that's going to really, truly impact our tomorrow or our 5 years from now. But if we don't take those chances, we may never get to meet these incredible people who do incredible things.
And that's the one thing too, if I could say, it's like, don't worry so much about the future on taking that step, because it's just a step. That's all it is. And you can't think it's a forever thing. It's hard for us not to think we need to make that step. Well, we need to look at everything in front of us. No, you don't, because things change so rapidly anyway, right? So if you're just taking a step in a direction of something that maybe looks interesting to you, or maybe just catches your eye for a minute, just take the step. That's it. Don't make it so complex with yourself. Like, well, if I do that, then, you can't look at life that way, I don't think. Because then
it's very short.
You hold back and you hesitate because, oh, maybe not, maybe not.
Yeah. Judgment, fear. There's so many reasons we don't do the things we feel like we feel so connected to.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about your mindset when you get into the vehicle and you're about to start this race. Where do you go and how do you get ready for it?
Well, I have a coach that works with me a lot, and he's a pro driver. I have different ones depending on where I'm going, but usually with the same coach for the season. And they just really, you're going over a lot. You spend a lot of time together and for race week. So you're doing a lot of downloading of information when you're in and out of the car practicing and looking at data and watching your videos. So that time is really lots of focus. And with that being said, that time you're spending there, now once you step into the race car for qualifying, say that's before the race, you're in a mindset of you've gathered all this information for the last 2 or 3 days of everything that you need to have done as perfectly as you can to get that perfect lap time for qualifying, right? So sure, you're anxious inside, your body's a little tense. I think your adrenaline's pretty high and you're trying to manage all of that. But with that said, there's this kind of stillness that you keep. And I don't know if it becomes a confidence in a sense, but it's this stillness inside. So when you step in the car, breathing's important, right? So I have my rituals in a sense. I think a lot of us are superstitious in ways. I think that's across athletics in a lot of way, a lot of athletes. So you have your routine of things that kind of are calming to you when you're in the car. And that's pretty much it. Um, you work on some little mental exercises. Music's a really good one for me. I do like certain songs that I work with in my head. Certain routines I do in the morning, but that's kind of the idea. And I think everyone's pretty much the same.
If you had to come up with a theme song for yourself, what do you think it would be?
That's a tough.
Which one?
It depends on the mood of how I feel through the work week. I mean, I love Tom Petty. He has a lot of kind of motivational stuff, but yeah, it's a hard one. One of my coaches used to always play right before the race. He'd put on the radio because the coach is in your ear, the engineer can hear you. You know, when you put your helmet on, you're in communication. And so right before the race start, he would always put his phone next to the mic so I could hear my headset, and it was "Don't Back Down." It was the Tom Petty song, and that was always like, for a while I used that a lot. Like, it just kind of gave me this motivation to be more aggressive at the start. So that was a good one to use.
I love that. And then when you're on the track,
Uh-huh.
what's going on inside? Do you have focus at all on what's going on inside? Because you're obviously focusing outward, but on the inside, what's going on?
Yeah, no, you're really managing the chaos. And, you're under it's a high intensity feeling, especially the start of races. Everyone's level of adrenaline is way up there. And yeah, you're inside your body. I mean, there's been times where I've had I left foot brake, but my right foot on the throttle, and I'll feel my foot shaky sometimes right before a race. And that's a weird feeling. I'll have to put my hand on my thigh for a minute and go, whoa, what's going on here? Because the adrenaline just gets so high sometimes that your body is just trying to kind of calm it. But otherwise, yeah, that's just kind of how I feel. Yeah. Yeah. There's a zone too that is great if you can get in it. It's one of those things that'd be great if you can stay in the zone, but you're popping in and out because there's so much going on around you with traffic, right? And you're trying to make moves and make sure people aren't coming from behind and taking you out. So there's a lot going on that you're trying to manage the madness in the brain.
The book is coming. The book is coming. Today is the Day, Live It will be published in late January 2026. Go to todayisthedayliveit.com to sign up and be the first to know when pre-orders are available. Live It is the Today's the Day Changemaker story. A story that began with one bold decision I made to spark a movement and create a platform for authentic connection and community. It showcases how a single choice can shift the trajectory of one life and ripple outward to transform the lives of many. Within these pages, you'll hear from 30 changemakers across the globe, from California to Uganda, sharing their voices, their defining shifts, and the impact they've made by choosing courage over fear, even when it seemed impossible. This isn't just a book. It's an invitation for you to believe in the power of one voice, your own. Stay tuned for the official author reveal coming soon, and don't forget to sign up at todayisthedayliveit.com so you don't miss your chance to pre-order. Because today is the day. Live It is more than a book. It's a movement. How are competitors? Because when you see racing, everybody's in their own space, in their own cars. How do is there kinship? Is there friendship? Is it kind of everybody kind of stays in their own space because you're competitors? How does it work in the racing world?
I think it goes back and forth, but this series, there's some guys that have been racing the series a while too, that I've become friends with. It's always different with the helmet on. I tell, some people, like people when they get in their car around town, right? They're a whole different human. All of a sudden they become like a warrior and you're going, what the heck? Well, and that happens in a race car too, where, there are some of the drivers that you're just like, wow, they're totally different once they put on their helmet. But for the most part, I mean, there are those ones that that you kind of got to watch out for, because you're like, oh, okay, they're going to come in for this. They're going to make a dive in. They don't care. And
Right.
those are the ones that they kind of have that reputation, so you're looking in your mirrors, especially for me, these last few races, I've had to really watch my mirrors, because just some high risk moves were being made. And unfortunately, I was in the wrong place at the wrong time and taken out of a few races. But yeah, that's kind of how it is. People are just, we call it red mist. And that's pretty much where that means the person now has got this level of adrenaline and they're not even thinking clearly. They're making crazy moves. So that's kind of a term they use in racing.
So are you always up against other Ferraris? Is it, for those who are laymen in racing, how does that work?
Well, there's different series. So in sprint racing, the series I race in, it's all Ferrari. This year, it's called the 296 Challenge car. In GT racing, the endurance side of it, sorry, those are all different types of manufacturer cars. So you have Lamborghini, Aston Martin, Lexus. You have a whole big different type of manufacturers. So that's a whole different world, because you have different cars, and they all have their pluses and minuses. But there's a science to it, and to try to keep them all evenly. And there's a licensing sanctioning body that helps to regulate that. It's not always fair, but it is what it is, because manufacturers they want their time in the sun too. So, yeah, so that's how that works.
What's your dream car to own?
Oh, a street car? I would say street car to own. Oh boy. I'm a Ferrari fan. I love Porsches too, though. Those are kind of my two, I would say, likes. Oh no, that's
Tough one, huh?
there's one coming up that if you're a race car driver with Ferrari, that you get to not have, but purchase. So I'm looking forward to that one. It's the race car version of what I have. I'm sorry, the street car, but it's called the Pelote. And it's just built strictly for race car drivers in the series. So I'm allowed to have one of those. So that I'm looking forward to that. That'll be coming probably in about 2 years. 1 to 2 years. Yeah.
What color would you go with?
Well, there's only certain colors they're allowing us for that one. There's like 4 options. So this one has a blue. There's a blue that I like. So I might go with that. I have a couple blue cars that I like. So that kind of seems like the color that's drawing my attention to this car. Yeah.
Yeah. I am a red person. So I have, and it's, I love Ferrari red. That's for sure. But yes, the last 2 cars I've owned are red. And I will say that it's very easy to find your car in a parking lot.
Sure.
That's filled with white, gray, and black cars.
It draws the attention of police too on freeways, just saying.
That is very true. And that's why it's important to put that cruise control on when you.
That's right.
That's my favorite part of the vehicle that I use during those times.
Yeah.
Mentors for you right now?
I would say really other race car drivers. Some of my coaches that are pro drivers, I learn a lot from them, and they're good people. And it is interesting because in motorsport, no matter what you do in the sport, whether you're a mechanic, a tire changer, you work in the pit, you're a driver, a lot of humble people. And I look to a lot of those people and just really have a lot of respect because they all kind of carry the same passion that I have. So no matter what level you are in the sport, it's kind of like you get each other. and there's this respect. And seeing people like that, to me, are mentors in a lot of ways, because I'm so respectful. It just means so much to see someone have a passion for something and work so hard, to be in it and to be in the sport. So those are the people that I really look to right now. All different levels of people in that sport.
Did your father ever get to see you race?
My father has never watched me race. He never really wanted me to. And he keeps thinking I should quit. So I'll send videos and I call him when I'm done, here and there, and just say, hey, I had a good race and da da da. But yeah, he's not a big fan of me being in a race car. It's interesting because I always tell him, Dad, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be in this sport. Because growing up, when he taught me to drive, he would take me on the freeway at night, and when there was nobody on there, and he would drive for a while, and then he'd pull over and go, okay, you drive now. And if you aren't going at least 75, 80, you're pulling over. And so I kind of learned about speed in a way where it was dark, and you feel like you're going slower in the dark anyway than you are. So I always say, well, Dad, if you wouldn't have done all these things in the four-wheeling and motorbike, I had a dirt bike when I was 10 in the desert. I rode on his gas tank before then through the desert and around. I said, then I wouldn't be doing all of that. And I had a great uncle that is a Hall of Fame race car driver, sprint car in the 50s and 60s. And he raced Formula One, IndyCar, and with Mario Andretti and all those, AJ Foyt, all the old guys. And so I grew up learning about him. And he was actually killed in a crash in 66 with Mario Andretti's teammate, Dick Atkins. But anyway, I grew up always learning about him and getting my dad telling stories about him. I never met him. I was young. But anyway, so all of that path and my dad educating me on that and then doing motorized things growing up, yeah, that was kind of what got me here today. And it is interesting that he doesn't want to come to a race. He just, yeah, I think,
Yeah.
Yeah,
of course. And obviously he knew you probably got hurt in one of those races.
Yeah, I don't tell him when situations happen anymore at all. And the COVID one was a big one. That was kind of like, since then he's, not real thrilled that I'm still out there.
But you know what? He's got to feel good that you've shared. It sounds when you talk about it too. The fact of sharing, of rebuilding an engine together for a summer sounds so beautiful.
Yeah, I did one thing recently. He and I growing up, there was a car called a Ford GT, and we love that car. I mean, we never could afford to own one, but it was in racing back in the day. That was the Ford versus Ferrari car from the movie. You might have seen that type of car, street car version. And he's his illness, he's kind of gotten older and he's not doing very well. And I thought, you know what, I've got to get that car. So I started looking, and eventually I just recently acquired one, and it happened to be in Phoenix. It was at an auction, and I bid on it and got the car. So I was so excited. So I flew over there, got the car, picked it up from the guy's house that owned the car, drove it to my dad's house because he lives in Phoenix still, same house I grew up in, and just said, Dad, you have to come outside. I have to show you something. And he's like, what? So anyway, I took him outside and he just kind of looked. He's like, wait, what did you do? I go, Dad, this was the car we always dreamt of having. And he was like in a daze. He goes, wait, you bought the car? I go, that's our car, Dad. And it was just one of those moments where I just kind of felt like I came full circle with him on this was our dream. I mean, we never even considered ever owning a car like that, but I felt really good of just kind of be able to go, here, this was us growing up. This was our idea of an amazing, car that we would talk and dream about and never even think we would own. So it was kind of a good closure, I think, to just kind of showing him the respect and really how grateful I was for all of this. So I jumped in the car, got the new tires on it, and drove it back to LA, and it was a great road trip back in that car. Yeah, just a lot of good memories. Yeah.
Oh, man, you're making me cry. My eyes are tearing up.
I know, I've already done that. Trust me. When I was showing my dad, it was really hard for both of us. Yeah.
Oh, so beautiful. My dad was my mentor. I lost him 10 years ago. It feels like it was yesterday. And so, yeah, it's so important to have and share those special moments and say the things you want to say and do the things you want to do.
Yes, it is. I tell my daughters that now, because you just do not know what tomorrow brings,
For anyone, doesn't matter age anymore.
Oh, no, not at all.
Yeah. Life is short, and we always think there's a tomorrow. And you'll hear at the end of every podcast what I say. I say the same thing. It's so true. Losing my dad really showed me that I hadn't looked at the sky for a very long time. It was always there, but I was living on cruise control, working so many hours, and just not living life, experiencing life. And it's important to have those moments like you just mentioned.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So a book that's you've connected with, changed your life, that you liked, anything?
The book I just started reading was Mel Robbins, the Let Them book. I'm a big fan of hers. I started following her on Instagram, and she's a very inspiring woman. That's pretty much a lot of the other stuff I'm reading is motorsport stuff, so it's boring to everybody else in the world, but and that's kind of my reading world right now that I have time.
Makes sense. I was running a Mel Robbins Let Them book club for a bit. And so, yeah, I love the theory. It's still taking time to get used to this whole let them, where we can, we have to own who we are and let people own who they are and not try to change the trajectory for them. Tough one, right? Even with kids, it's tough with our kids to do it too, right?
Right. It sounds so simple. That phrase sounds so simple, but it really has to resonate in your daily life to use it, because it's hard for us to let go of that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. Lisa, is there anything that you want to talk about that we may have missed? Because there's so much about you and you're so dynamic. You've got so many lessons to teach others.
Not really. For me this year, I felt like a big part of life was my mantra was to keep going. And I even actually got a tattoo on my wrist, which I don't have any tattoos. I came back from a race this year, and my one daughter, anyway, I said, you know what? I think I'm ready for a tattoo, because I've always kind of had girlfriends that got them. My one daughter has a few, but I never really felt a purpose. Or even that it wasn't even really a thing, but I always thought, eventually someday. And it hit me when I was at one of these races. And it was an endurance race. It was rain. It was super hard. I almost got in not a good situation in the rain. It's a very difficult circuit, one of the most in Europe. It's called Spa. And anyway, I got through that weekend, and I called my daughter and said, you know what? I'm ready for that tattoo. And she's like, what, Mom? I go, no, I would always get this temporary one, and I'd put it on here before races, and it said, keep going. I found it at some Instagram thing. So I'd put it on, and it lasts about a week, just enough time for the races. I always put it on my wrist, and I'd look at it kind of before I put my glove on, like, oh yeah, it was just kind of like a mindset. And so I came back and I got the keep going. She took me to the guy that does hers, and she got one. She goes, we want to do one together, but she got something else to add to her collection, whatever. But yeah, so anyway, that's kind of the one thing I would say for me that just kind of resonates with me. With all the hard, when things are so hard, and what do you do? How do you get through it? And I just kind of look down at that and just kind of like, keep going. There's no other option. And whatever it is, it's bringing you down, or, where you need that inner drive somehow, no one's going to give it to you. So you've got to find a way to just reset yourself and be able to do that. So that's really the one thing I think that's my mantra in my brain that seems to be carrying me along a little.
Well, I think you might have named the title of this podcast episode, because it sounds like a great title for it. And it's so true. It's so true. If you find in the moments when there's that happiness, that connectiveness, that flow in your life, it's important to be able to tap back into it during those moments when you don't have it anymore.
You don't have it. Yeah.
And so having it right on your hand there, I love that you were able to actually find a temporary one. And then
that way it was weird, because I always thought it was great is you can take it off. After it wears off, it's like you're done and you look great, right? But no, I really like having that one.
It looks really well done and small and dainty.
No one needs to really know. It's for me, right? And that's kind of why I did it. Yeah.
Whatever works for my daughter has tattoos too, so I understand.
Yes, right, correct.
Anything else, Lisa?
No, that's it. Just go out and try to rule the world for yourself. That's it.
I love that so much. And for those listening, Lisa and I and many others are embarking on a really incredible journey, and we're going to be releasing that very, very soon. I'm excited to work with just incredible change makers from around the globe. We're sharing their story, and we'll be sharing their story in a grander way even. So this platform's one of them, and then something in writing. I'm sure you can all venture to guess what that's going to be. So Lisa, I just want to say thank you for the work you do and for leading the way for women in this industry. It's incredible. I hate that when they gave you the oldest title. No, it's just, it doesn't need to be that. It's just you're a female race car driver, and it's incredible.
Yeah, no, you get inspired by others. I mean, I'm inspired by so many women out there. It's amazing. And, they inspire me, and I'm glad if I can inspire women out there as well. Not just women, but just keep inspired and keep inspiring. That's kind of how it has to work.
Absolutely. Well, Lisa, thank you so much. Lisa Clark, we will be following. Is there anywhere people can follow you?
Yeah, my Instagram is racer.mom, and it's my journey as a female in the sport. And then I am on Facebook, I think Lisa Clark. But Instagram's kind of and I guess there's a TikTok thing out there of me. But that's the one that kind of gets used to kind of show my journey as a female in the sport.
I love it because I follow you, and I love seeing all the places you go and all the things that you're doing. So I highly recommend it. So please follow Lisa at Racecar Mom. Is that it?
No, racer.mom.
Racer.mom. Thank you for correcting me on that. Racer.mom. Again, thank you again. And we want to follow up. So we've got to talk again and get some updates on what's going on in your life. Okay.
For sure. All right. Thank you so much. Gosh.
Thank you. And I loved having you on, and I love this conversation. And I'm going to say what I say at the end of every single podcast. Today is the day. You can't go back to yesterday, and you do not yet own tomorrow. So what small or large step are you going to take today to get yourself closer to your goals? Have a great week, everyone. Bye, Lisa.
Bye-bye.